Now if you have more than one worksheet in your workbook here like I do down below, I don't know what's on sheet 2, 3, or 4, or maybe I did at one point but I forgot now. I have to go ahead and click on it to go, it's the sales in Utah for essential oils, and this is for New York, what's behind sheet 4, Arizona, and then the last one is a summary of the first 4 worksheets, the sales that we had in those states. So instead of guessing, let's go ahead and rename the worksheets that correspond with the state that we made the sales in. And you can do it one of two ways. You can either go ahead and right click on the worksheet tab. In the shortcut menu, go to rename. You can see it selects the default text. Just go ahead and type over it. And then when you're done, be sure to hit enter so it accepts the changes that you made. The other way is just to go ahead and double click really fast and it selects the text. And you don't have to hit enter. You can just go ahead and go to the next worksheet and double click. And then finally the last sheet here, the summary. Now in addition to renaming the worksheets here, you can also give them color. Like for example, if our sales are doing really hot in Arizona, we can right click the tab, go up to tab color and give it red, unless of course that's the international sign of danger, we're in the red. In any case, you can see the standard colors, or you can use one of the theme colors that when you hover over it, instead of just orange, you can see in the pop-up the theme color has kind of a longer name. It's orange accent darker 25%. Let's go ahead and select it. That's a fancy name. Right click any of the others to tab colors here, or if you'd like, if you got a lot of worksheets that you want to format at the same time, go ahead and select the first one, hold down the shift key and select the last one, and you can see how they're all selected. In fact, after I select them, if you look up here on the title bar, it says you got a group. If I click off of that, the group disappears up on the title bar, letting me know that I don't have a bunch of sheets selected or a group of selection there. So you can go ahead and shift click, or you can hold down the control key. So if I select California, control click New York, and I want to format those two at the same time, right click on either one because they're both selected, and then come up here and let's make them both. Let's do that purple thing, and then click off to see it. Fabulous. And of course notice that whatever worksheet you have selected, it gives you just a faint background of that color because that's the active worksheet. Then when you leave it, it gives us the full display of color there. Now if you want to insert additional worksheets, you can do it one of a couple of ways. You can either go ahead and click on the new sheet button, click on the plus sign, and it adds it just to the right of what I had selected. So if I select Utah and click plus, it adds it to the right, and whoops, if I didn't mean to do that, to get rid of it, right click on the sheet tab and you can delete it, and right click and delete. By the way, you can insert it in the shortcut menu there. It opens up the window with other templates here, the least of which is the blank worksheet template. You can see it's selected by default, so just hit okie dokie and it inserts it. Let's go ahead and right click that, delete that, and right click and delete as well. And then for reordering the worksheets, if you want to move them around, you can do that one of a couple of ways. You can either go ahead and click and drag if you don't have far to go, like if I click on Arizona and I hold the left mouse button down, you see how my pointer's got a little sheet below it, and you see that little black arrow right there? Wherever I go, that black arrow, or that little black triangle pointing down, means it's going to dump it in between Utah and New York. So when I let go, even though it's on top of New York, that black triangle was in between these two worksheets, and that's where it dumps it. So you can click and drag. And if you got a long way to go because you have over 1,000 worksheets, I mean, I don't know how many worksheets you can have. I haven't tested it to see where it clips out at, but if you have a long way to go, it might be better to right click on the sheet tab and go to move or copy so you don't have to click and drag, because that would be a drag. You can go ahead and say, okay, I want to move or copy. Well, in this case, we just want to move. We want to move the worksheet that we have selected here before which worksheet that we have. Let's say before the summary sheet. So it's going to move it over here before the summary sheet. Click okie dokie, and there it is. It's a lot easier than clicking and dragging, I think. Except if you just have a few worksheets here, then it's easier to just drag it over just a couple than to right click. And like it said, you can, when you right click in the move or copy window, you can actually copy that worksheet. So if we have another state that comes online, like maybe North Dakota, instead of retyping all this in, I can go ahead and say I want to create a copy of it and move that copy, let's say before the summary, click okie dokie. So it copies that and calls it the number 2 worksheet of the original name. So I can just go ahead and double click on it and say ND for North Dakota, hit enter, then of course come up here and change that go ahead and make all the changes there. So it'll reflect the essential oil cells for North Dakota. Now, not only can you move and or copy a worksheet within the workbook, but you can do it to other workbooks that you have open, or even a new workbook altogether. So let's go ahead and right-click on the tab down below to get my jump list so I can open up a new Excel workbook. Click on Excel 2013. And let's go ahead and click on Save As. And let's do it to the desktop and call it my European Sales for Essential Oils. And click Save. I have no worksheets in here. So if I go back to my original workbook, I've got the layout that I like. And so instead of recreating it, let's just go ahead and copy it over and make changes to it. Of course, you can also move it over if you'd like. So to do that, go ahead and right-click on any worksheet. Or, as I mentioned, if you want to do it for a bunch of worksheets, go ahead and click on one and Control-click the others, or hold down the Shift key so you can go ahead and select Arrange. Of course, I had North Dakota selected and I went backwards, so it'll be these three worksheets. Go ahead and right-click on it. Go to Move or Copy, and whatever workbook that you have open, which right here is my European Sales, I can go ahead and move it over to that workbook. So let me select it, and right now it just has the default Sheet 1. Do you want to move it before Sheet 1 or move it to the end? Let's move it to the end. Click Okie dokie, and hey, there they are. So there's Sheet 1. Move the three selected worksheets at the end. So if I go back to my original workbook, those three sheets are gone. Oh, drat. Let's go ahead and go back to my European Sales, and let's hold down the Shift key to select all three of them. Right click, and let's move our copy back to, click on the drop down arrow, the original workbook, modifying, and let's create a copy and leave these three here. But I wanted to show you that you can move your worksheets from one workbook to another. So now we're going to go ahead and show you how you can create copies of them without actually moving them out of this workbook, because I'll come in here and rename it to, like, well, what's in Europe? We have Italy, the United Kingdom, France. So let's go ahead and click Okie dokie. And it copies them back over here into the original workbook, and the European Sales here still retains them. Then I can just go ahead and double click and make all the updates. And then finally, if you want to go ahead and create a workbook from scratch based upon the worksheets that you already created here, let's go back to the original workbook. You can right click on it, of course, come up to Move or Copy, click on the drop down arrow and just say New Book. And let's go ahead and copy what we have selected, New York, to that new workbook. Click Okie dokie. Opens up the new workbook, the generic name Book 2, until I save it and give it a new name, and just call it My Sales in New York. That is, if I'm not going to have anything else in this workbook, because New York is so big and we got so many cells, it needs its own workbook. Let's go back to the original workbook here, and over to the far right you have your horizontal scroll bar. You can hover over those three dots there, and you can see I've got arrows pointing in opposite directions. Let me click and drag that over so I get more of a scroll bar and I get less of my worksheets that I can't see them. If you want to go ahead and see more of a scroll bar, or you've got like 100 worksheets and you can't see all of them, then to go ahead and navigate, you can use the arrow here from one worksheet to the next, and it shows you in the pop-up, it says Control plus click left will scroll to the last worksheet. So Control plus left click to the last sheet, and let's Control click left to the first worksheet. So I can go all the way to the beginning or to the end of all the worksheets within my workbook. And then of course in the pop-up you can right click to see all sheets, and then just quickly navigate to one, select it, click Okie dokie, and it takes you right to it. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.